This visibility will discourage that activity from continuing.
And the Commanding General of the California National Guard, General Thrasher.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been mentioned we have 2,000 Guard members mobilized, another 2,000 mobilized for reporting tomorrow, an additional request for 2,000, and has been stated we're going to make a determination on whether the logistics and personnel required in the time frame requested by both branches of the law enforcement here can be met. If that cannot, then we will then attempt to get additional resources. The key being time in order to meet the needs of the law enforcement, both the county and the city. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be glad to take your questions.
When will you decide on federal troops? When will you make that decision on federal troops? I mean, how long is the timeline here?
We will make the determination based on our ability to mobilize and transport the Guard. If we can't do that, and we need to know that very quickly, then we will make the request for the federal assistance.
Let me add that in order that there not be any lag time between the time we now call upon them and the time we need them, the notice has been made to Washington so that they are on the alert in anticipation we may have to call on them. I hope we don't, but if we have to call on them, and we'll make that determination as we find out how many troops can be sent here from California. If we need them from Washington, if we need that help, we'll be able to make that call.
So do you have a time frame that you're working in, say by the end of tomorrow?
Yes, as soon as possible.
Governor, could you clear up the ammunition complication? Does each Guardsman now have a full clip of ammo, live ammo? What is the situation?
There is no shortage of ammunition for those who are presently here. One of the considerations will be whether or not those that we are being requested to add as a supplement will have adequate equipment of all kinds, including ammunition. But those who are here now have adequate ammunition.
What are the problems with getting the ammunition here? What has happened?
The problem was that the ammunition came from Camp Roberts, and it was slow in coming.
Well, let me add one thing, because there's a certain newspaper in this state that suggested that it was the mayor of Los Angeles, Tom Bradley, who held up the deployment of those troops because he didn't accept that ammunition they were carrying. I had nothing to do with that.
Not true.
Your thoughts, your eyewitness to the devastation in Los Angeles. What was your first thought?
I was sick at heart. I remain sick at heart. I have very mixed reactions. As I said in a statement this afternoon, I have seen people looting, people of whom I am ashamed. But I've also seen acts of courage. I have seen this terrible tragedy bring out the best in people. The black man who had the courage to rescue a motorist from an angry crowd, who defied that crowd, I think perhaps best exemplified what I believe to be the spirit of this community as a whole. His comment when he was asked in a television interview as to why he had intervened to help a white motorist, he said, "It's not a racial issue, it's an issue of basic humanity."
I understand that, but did anything strike you like, oh my God, I didn't expect to see what I'm seeing?
Well, of course.
When do you expect to get these 6,000 troops on the street?
If your question is, what is our goal, the time frame to have them on the street or have them in the city and ready for deployment, consistent with the priorities being tasked by the sheriff and the chief, is by noon tomorrow.
Is there any sign that the curfew is working?
I'm sorry?
Is there any sign that the curfew is working, that perhaps
Yes.
it's beginning to get hold? Could you be a little more specific about that?
I think that the evidence that the curfew is working arises from the fact that there have been several hundred arrests made, that as we just took an aerial tour, The number of people visible, both in automobiles traveling the freeways and the surface streets, and it was fewer than I have ever seen at any hour of the day, by quite a lot. The number of people visible on the streets, there are a handful, very, very few. But I think the best thing that we can say is that for the curfew to work, there have to be the resources available. There has to be the manpower.
Chief, can you respond to that
Issue
question?
with regards to the guardsmen discharging
You wanna
their
respond to
weapons
that, to
using
the
deadly
curfew?
force? What kind of orders have you issued to the guardsmen with regards to discharging their weapons using deadly force?
They will return fire. They will protect themselves. They will protect innocent bystanders. They will protect citizens. They will not, obviously, they will not engage in a firefight unless they have been provoked by being fired upon, or unless there is, in fact, a threat to an innocent citizen.
Chief Gates, could you please answer the curfew question? I wonder if the chief could tell us, in numbers perhaps, or in other forms of measurement, how the curfew is working.
The curfew is working very, very well, as the governor said, particularly in those areas where we can back it up with sufficient resources. In the south central portion of Los Angeles, I drove mile after mile and saw very, very few people. Going out into the west side, Vermont and Western, Wilshire, Sunset, Hollywood Boulevard, I saw a lot of people. Simply because we were not able to back up the curfew and drive them off the street. They were there, and they felt they could be there, and we wouldn't touch them because we didn't have the resources. But it is working in the south central portion of Los Angeles. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at South Central as being very, very good at this particular moment. It's calm. I've seen more police officers. We do have some of the National Guard there. And while some fires are still burning and we still have some problems, it's a much better condition than it was yesterday.
Chief, you said this thing cleared up more quickly than you expected, and certainly more quickly than 1965. Do you think, are you hoping now that it might die down more quickly?
Well, I certainly am. I hope that I'm forever hopeful. And my hope was that today we would have it under control. My hope is that tomorrow we will have it under control. Took 5 days for us to do that in 1965, and if we can do it by tomorrow, it's only taken us 3. And this is a much more dramatic in terms of its impact on the city, property damage, number of fires. Much more dramatic. The number of stores looted. So if we can do it in 3 days, we will have accomplished a great deal.
Chief, how many arrests have been made? Chief, how many arrests have been made?
We have made about 400 in the city. I don't know how many have been made.
We have made 388, so close to 800 arrests made.
Have you been making all the arrests you want to make, or are you unable to make the arrests that you want?
We would like to make many more arrests. It's troubled us greatly to see people coming out of these stores and not making those arrests when they have committed a burglary. And we want to make those arrests. We want to make some curfew arrests, but we have not been able to do that. And if we have the space in the local hotel and Block Hotel, and we have the capacity to provide the enforcement effort with the National Guard taking care of the containment, we will then up the ante of arrests substantially.
Mr. Mayor, it sounds as if you were anticipating that the situation with the curfew at least would last through the weekend. With that in mind, can you tell people that you think we made it through the worst of this or not?
As you may know, the curfew was authorized for 1 day, and tomorrow morning we make the assessment. In fact, we'll probably do it before then. I'll issue a new order to extend the curfew.
But you used the phrase through a long weekend before, Governor Wilson did. Are you anticipating that this will last
So are you asking the governor the question?
Well, I'm asking you whether you think this is going to last.
I want it to be over yesterday, and I have no way of knowing how quickly we can gain control of this situation.
Governor, when this is over, when we get beyond this, what sort of state aid will be available, if any, to these shop owners?
We will work with the federal government to see that those who are the victims through arson and through other means of destroying their property, to see that they are available, that they have available to them the range of programs that are presently available under federal law through the Small Business Administration. And that is all that I can tell you now, but let me return to the question that was asked of the mayor. I think the mayor has made it clear. I think all of us have made it clear. We intend to do whatever is necessary to assure the public safety. Yes, I did say through a long weekend, and as with the others, it would be my hope that this will end as abruptly as it began, but we do not take that for granted. What you can take for granted is that we are going to do whatever is required, however long it takes, with whatever resources are required to see to it that public safety is assured.
Governor, wasn't there been a lot of questions asked, and I, in fact, witnessed some of it, where the National Guard was waiting to be deployed for up to an hour, sitting in a parking lot where looting was going on, two different directions at the same time, one at my Angeles store, one down the street. Many questions as to why they didn't go into action.
Well, Linda, I think, first of all, you have to understand that the arrests are going to be made by professional law enforcement officers of the Los Angeles Police Department or the Sheriff's Office. The Guardsman's role is to assist them by securing the premises once they have made arrests. But if you're asking why they were not deployed, which I understood to be your question, as I understand it, there is a joint activity that is tasking the members of the Guard. That is under the control of the chief and the sheriff. They determine the priorities as to where the Guardsmen are most needed. The missions result from that tasking.
6,000 guardsmen by noon tomorrow, did you say, Governor?
6,000 Guardsmen or the equivalent from other resources.
Governor, do you have plans to tour the Bay Area, San Francisco being under a state of emergency as well?
I may.
Well, clearly the governor and Mayor Bradley, Chief Gates, and Sheriff Block have said, I mean, their mandate is that they are going to do whatever is necessary, and that is obviously open to interpretation, but it seems quite clear that they are going to do what they have to do to restore peace in the city and protect the citizens. And I guess now all we can do is wait and see what happens. Hal?
Okay, Marta, thanks for that report from the City Hall. It is possible that many of us will wake up tomorrow, look out the windows, and see streets patrolled by National Guardsmen, or the possibility even exists by the United States Army. This will conclude Channel 5 News coverage of the day's events, the crisis, the tragedy here in Los Angeles. We will continue with our morning news at 7 a.m. and depending upon the circumstances as they exist tomorrow, we will continue our coverage of the crisis here in the city of Los Angeles, and of course have a complete coverage for you on News at 10 tomorrow night. We will be on all day if necessary, and all night if necessary, should the situation warrant. We leave you with hopes for a safe night tonight and a safe and tranquil day tomorrow. For Jan Carl, for Larry McCormick, for the entire Channel 5 News team, I'm Hal Fishman. Good night.